Rocks D Xebec. This guy for the longest time was considered one of, if not the most powerful character within the One Piece universe. He ruled the golden era of piracy with an iron fist, leading a crew with the likes of Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, and Shiki backing him up, who all, mind you, would go on to become respective great pirates in their own right, with 3 out of these 4 people I mentioned becoming Yonkos and Shiki himself becoming a Roger rival. And in order for the King of Pirates or Gol D Roger to defeat Rocks, he needed the help of his arch nemesis Garp, which, you know damn well it's bad when this Unk has to team up with the one group of people he hates the most in order to defeat the enemy. So today we will be not only going over Rocks' lore before his reveal, but along with what's been currently going on within One Piece. Meaning if you don't read the One Piece manga, prepare to be spoiled on some pretty big stuff. Is Rocks really the strongest character in One Piece, or is bro just another victim of Mihawk upscaling? Let's dive into it. Now, before his reveal when bro was just nothing but a silhouette, we knew that Rocks was a powerhouse during his era. The Rocks Pirates was a type of crew that was so intense that they casually kill off their own members. This group, like I said earlier, consisted of characters like Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard, and Shiki. And a little cool fact that should be noted as well is that one dude from Thriller Bark is also here, which is pretty cool, I guess. Anywho, this crew at their pinnacle was known as the strongest crew in the entire world. However, I don't think this is the best evidence to say Rocks is just automatically stronger than Shiki, Whitebeard, or Kaido, considering this was 38 years ago. Meaning by this time, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, and Shiki aren't in their primes, as Whitebeard would become the strongest man long after the crew disbanded, while Kaido and Big Moms would be in their primes by the time of Wano, and Shiki would reach his prime by the time of him fighting Roger, Garp, and Sengoku. However, it was noted by Sengoku that Rocks was Roger's first and perhaps greatest foe he went up against. And of course, he's also in Kaido's top 5 fighters he's fought, but to be fair, this is more than likely attributed to the people that Kaido respects the most, as characters like Garp and Mihawk are not listed on here. He has a consistent portrayal of being up there with the strongest, and more than likely surpassed them given the fact that Roger didn't win by himself. Rocks has statements as well in the Road of Laughtale guide confirming that he is Roger's greatest foe, period. And so we can actually use these statements to determine that he's actually stronger than the likes of Whitebeard, Shiki, Garp, and pretty much anybody that Roger went up against. Meaning these rivals of Roger who could go blow for blow with him pale in comparison to Rocks himself. And sadly, this is pretty much the only info we have on the character, so to say that he's inconsistent doesn't really make sense because he hasn't shown anything to really prove that. And we see in the recent chapters as well, Rocks himself is an absolute monster. Not only in the new chapter is bro aura farming on Emu not being opposed to fighting him, but we see him straight up murder an admiral in cold blood. Granted, we don't know how strong this guy really was, but to kill an admiral like this in itself is something no character has ever really done. And we see as well that he displays advanced conquerors while also being noted to have renowned swordsmanship. Meaning Mihawk upscales, am I right? Mihawk top 1, bro. I'm just kidding. We'll talk about that in a minute though. Firstly, I believe Rock's off-rip showing this power is very noteworthy from Oda, as we all know that Haki is probably the stronger power-up in comparison to Devil Fruits. And we know that Advanced Conquerors specifically is the power that only the strongest of the world have, as those two types aren't as difficult to attain in comparison to Advanced Conquerors. I sincerely doubt this dude is rocking Mantra and can't see into the future. Like, come on, let's be for real now. It's not ridiculous to assume that he probably has all 3 advanced types. But now that I got that side tangent out of the way, let's now talk about the quote-unquote Mihawk upscale. Mihawk is one of, if not the strongest alive character within the series. However, I don't think his scaling is really as firm as Whitebeard being the strongest pirate, who Rocks would obviously upscale from. We also know Mihawk was like a child at the time of this chapter going on, and by the time Mihawk became the GOAT, Rocks was long forgotten about. So I don't think we can really apply this scaling firmly to Mihawk, but I don't think this really changes anything for Mihawk as he's still the GOAT. It kind of comes down to the strongest swordsman versus the strongest pirate, which in all honesty is a little backwards to talk about just because you're going to bring up the same statements everyone's heard before. But I mean, upscaling from characters like Roger and Garp and fighting them in a 2-on-1 setting, the same guys who should be relative with Prime Beard, I just think this alone is kind of a lot for Mihawk to really deal with, especially considering him versus Roger and Prime Whitebeard is already a topic in itself. Unless of course you think Shanks scales to Roger because he has the same technique as him and Mihawk and Shanks are stronger rivals than Roger and Whitebeard. But at that point you have to compare how they surpass characters like Roger, and you're also presuming Shanks is just equal to Roger when they have the same technique. So, I mean, the argument for Mihawk being top 1 of all time is there, but I feel like you would be ignoring a few things that are pretty significant in context. Mihawk is my GOAT, but I don't think he's necessarily top 1 all time. Regardless though, both of these guys are top 1 in their respective era, which I think is pretty cool to think about. Now, we don't know bro's devil fruit just yet, but what we do know is he's the father of the fruit merchant Fraudbeard, and he may or may not have the OP no Mi, because One Piece fans think Oda foreskins everything with him throwing a peace sign. But seriously, if he does have this fruit potentially, then we might be having a guy who can never be overpowered in hockey, meaning his devil fruit powers can never be fully nullified. And we already saw with characters like Law how much of a prodigy he is with this fruit, and how much this fruit can really make a difference in a fight. Even while being inferior to the likes of Blackbeard because of his fruit and the specific hacks it's given, he was able to do some pretty significant damage, and by the end of the fight, Blackbeard was huffing and puffing. But again, this is only if he has the fruit, but regardless, Rox is the man who ruled the One Piece world with an iron fist. Despite characters like Gol D Roger, who has fought and rivaled in power with the likes of Shiki, Whitebeard, Garp, and Sengoku, with Whitebeard and Garp respectively being potentially stronger than Roger himself, and yet despite this, Roger plus Garp was needed to bring down the original strongest man. And so, as far as the title goes, or to answer the question of the video, yes, Rox during his time originally carried the title of the strongest, and in my opinion, it wasn't until long after Rox's death where that title would then be granted to Whitebeard, and he would maintain this title until he eventually got old along with Garp, while Mihawk and Shanks rose to power and became the strongest of their current era. We know that Shanks is the closest man to becoming the Pirate King after Whitebeard's death, and Mihawk of course is stronger in both swordsmanship and power in comparison to Shanks, and currently is looking for someone even stronger than him. Now, we're gonna get more from the next few chapters, but as of right now, I believe Rox is currently living up to the hype of being the strongest pirate within One Piece. Though, of course, next chapter they can easily change this notion. Now, there are a lot of theories and speculation regarding the fight with Rox and Roger and how he may or may not have been betrayed based off this one statement by Kaido. And I'm not gonna lie, if someone like, let's say, Whitebeard ends up stabbing Rox in the back, that would make plenty of sense as to why he was able to be brought down by Roger and Garp. And it would also recontextualize a lot of things for specifically Whitebeard and specifically Blackbeard joining the Whitebeard crew and betraying him. I think this is the most likely and safest interpretation that I can predict, or at the very least, get behind. Regardless though, I hope you guys enjoyed this fun little analysis regarding Rox D Xebec and talking about a lot of scaling regarding who I believe are the top tiers of the verse. I believe the Rox agenda is in fact real, and he is without a doubt the strongest pirate in One Piece history. Yeah, but Tyler, you want to know something? Rox not only is a swordsman, meaning Mihawk upscales from him, but you want to know what Rox and Mihawk have? Shadows. Oh my god, you're right! Moria's top 1!